कि तुम्हारे जानते पारे তুমি না জানালে পরে কে তোমারে জানতে পারে বেদ বেদান্ত পায় না অন্ত, বেদ বেদান্ত পায় না অন্ত, খুঁজে বেড়ায় অন্ধকারে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে, তুমি না জানালে পরে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে। যাগ যজ্ঞ তপযোগ সকলি হয় কর্মভোগ, যাগ যজ্ঞ তপযোগ সকলি হয় কর্মভোগ, কর্ম তোমার মর্ম কি পায়, তুমি সর্ব কর্ম পারে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে। সৃষ্টি জোড়া তোমার মায়া, কায়া নাই সকলি ছায়া, সৃষ্টি জোড়া তোমার মায়া, কায়া নাই সকলি ছায়া, মাঠের মাঝে আকাশ ধরা, মাঠের মাঝে আকাশ ধরা, ঘুরে সারা চারিধারে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে, তুমি না জানালে পরে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে। তুমি প্রভু ইচ্ছাময়, যদি তোমার ইচ্ছা হয়, তুমি প্রভু ইচ্ছাময়, যদি তোমার ইচ্ছা হয়, অসাধ্য সুসাধ্য তার, তুমি কৃপা করো যারে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে, তুমি না জানালে পরে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে। তব কৃপা আশা করি, রয়েছি জীবন ধরি, তব কৃপা আশা করি, রয়েছি জীবন ধরি, কৃপানাথ কৃপা করি, কৃপানাথ কৃপা করি, এসো বসো হৃদয় মাঝারে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে, তুমি না জানালে পরে, কে তোমারে জানতে পারে।
করে দিয়েছি brought the paper. I don't know where it got. আপনি একটু পাশে বসে এটাকে একটু করতে থাকবেন। আমার কাগজটা হারিয়ে গেছে, এটাতে একটু ফোনটা একটু সোয়াপ করতে থাকবেন যাতে কিনা ফোনটা বন্ধ না হয়ে যায়। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, আমি দেখতে থাকবো। কাগজটা এনেছিলাম কিন্তু কোথায় হারিয়ে গেছে? না, বইয়ে নেই। আমি একটা কাগজ নিয়ে এসেছিলাম, কাগজটা কোথায় পড়ে গেছে? মাঝে মাঝে এটাকে জাস্ট একটু এরকম Kabira. This is Kabir's Doha. And in this Doha, Kabir says that our life is like a cloth. Chadorer moton jibonta. And we need to keep it intact when we come from Thakur and go back to him rather than getting it dirty. So that is how Kabir's Doha. Kabira, jab hum paida हुए जग हंसे हम रोए ऐसी करनी कर चलो हम हंसे जग रोए। चदरिया चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी क्या बात। चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी 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 के झीनी रे झीनी। अष्टकमल का चरखा बनाया, अष्टकमल का चरखा बनाया, पांच तत्व की पूनी चदरिया, पांच तत्व की पूनी। 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे, ओ 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे, मूरख मैली कीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी 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 झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी। चादर ओढ़ शंका मत करियो, चादर ओढ़ शंका मत करियो। ये 2 दिन तुमको दीन ही चदरिया, ये 2 दिन तुमको दीनी। मूर्ख लोग भेद नहीं जाने, मूर्ख लोग भेद नहीं जाने। दिन दिन मैली कीन ही चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी झीनी झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी। Kabir is giving example of Dhruv, Prahlad, Sudama and himself, that they wrapped the cloth of life and left it when they were living and going to God as it is. Dhruv, Prahlad, Sudama ne ओढ़ी चदरिया, ध्रुव प्रहलाद सुदामा ने ओढ़ी, शुकदेव ने निर्मल कीनी चदरिया, शुकदेव ने निर्मल कीनी। ध्रुव प्रहलाद सुदामा ने ओढ़ी, शुकदेव ने निर्मल कीनी चदरिया, शुकदेव ने निर्मल कीनी। दास कबीर ने ऐसी ओढ़ी, दास कबीर ने ऐसी ओढ़ी, दास कबीर ने ऐसी ओढ़ी, ज्यों के त्यों धर दीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी रे झीनी 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 झीनी। के राम नाम रस भीनी चदरिया, झीनी না ব্যাস না না ও বাঁশি বাজাবে সময় আছে।
What you want to sing, okay?
Sitapati Ramachandra.
Tuma ka jala.
No, no, Sitapati Ramachandra.
Oh.
Yeah. एक ताल. Where is the beat? Where is the taal?
There, on the. Straight. You look straight. On the window. On the window, in front of you.
We need that. सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई भजले अयोध्यानाथ दूसरो न कोई भजले अयोध्यानाथ दूसरो न कोई सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई रसना रसना मलिक संतन को दर्श देत रसना रसना मलिक संतन को दर्श देत ईशत मुख चंद्र बिंदु सुंदर सुख दाये ईशत मुख चंद्र बिंदु सुंदर सुख दाये सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई हसन बोलन चतुर चाल अयन वयन दृग विशाल हसन बोलन चतुर चाल अयन वयन दृग विशाल भ्रुकुटि कोटिल तिलक भाल नासिका सोहाए भ्रुकुटि कोटिल तिलक भाल नासिका सोहाए सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई केशर को तिलक भाल मानो रवि प्रातः काल केशर को तिलक भाल मानो ज्योति छवि छाई सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई सखा सहित सरयू तीर विहरे रघुवंश वीर सखा सहित सरयू तीर विहरे रघुवंश वीर तुलसीदास हर्ष निरखि चरणारज पाए तुलसीदास हर्ष निरखि चरणारज पाए सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई भजले अयोध्यानाथ दूसरो न कोई भजले अयोध्यानाथ दूसरो न कोई सीतापति रामचंद्र रघुपति रघुराई একটা ধুন ধুন বাজিয়ে এরপরে তাহলে জল হবে?
জল হবে।
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ। এটা জলই তো। আমি এর আগে একটু ভাটিয়ালি ধুন বাজানোর চেষ্টা করলাম। আচ্ছা, এবার আমি একটু পাহাড়ি ধুন বাজানোর চেষ্টা করব। এই পাহাড়ি ধুন একটু আমি ইন্সপায়ার হয়েছি বিহুর কম্পোজিশন থেকে। ভুল ত্রুটি মাফ করবেন। Thank you. আমার নাম সোহন সাধু। আমার এখানে আমাকে okay. My name is Sohan Sadhu, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to Maharaj Ji to being able to playing flute here in this auspicious day at this very holy temple. And I would also like to thank my mommy, who is not only a brilliant singer, as you all might know. She has actually inspired me to get into music and also to improve upon that. And I'm really, really grateful that I know her, and I am very grateful to be in her family somewhere or the other. So thank you, mommy. Oh yes, and along with me, it was tabla was played by Sanjit Da, who is extremely extraordinary, as you all can see. His grasp on tabla, bowl, and bani is extraordinary, and I'm also thankful for him for accompanying me here. And thanks to all of you. Also, last but not the least, I would like to mention the name of my Guruji, Pandit Ashok Kumar Karmakar, who has been teaching me flute for almost 8 years now, and I want to be a lifelong disciple of him forever. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody would like to get up and stretch or go out for a minute, now's a good time. We'll start in a few minutes. We'll just clean up here. No, here. It'll be here. It'll be here. Yeah.
ಹಾಗಾಯ್ತು ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಬರೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ವೆರಿ ನೈಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್
Okay, I think we can start. We have sheets of paper and pens. You can write down things as we're speaking, before we speak, after we speak. The format will be, the panel is only the two of us, Swami Swahananda and myself. We were hoping for a third, but because there are 3 sessions, we came up with the topic, the essential teachings, and I'll do the first one, Sri Ramakrishna, and then Swami Swahananda will do Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, and then the third one will be on Holy Mother. And we'll try to finish up. It'll be about 15 minutes each now. We're starting a little bit late. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions, so you can write them down. Somebody can pass them out, or you can just wave your hand and she'll come up. Shreya? Yeah. We'll be in charge of the paper and everything. So when we think about the essential teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and Swamiji, there's really almost no limit. We could come up with so many things. I didn't really make an attempt to come up with the most important things. I came up with the things that struck me as important, as interesting. One of the things you can write down is if there are some teachings that you find especially important that we don't touch on, you can ask about that. And you can ask about anything, really. This is a very broad, wide open type of topic. So I tried to come up with some things that were generally important for spiritual life and spiritual practice, a little bit with the philosophical outlook of Sri Ramakrishna. We understand him to represent all of the, and to teach all of the essential ideas of Vedanta, but I find there are fewer things that are more or less original with him. He never claimed to be really original. Sri Ramakrishna had a habit of always citing sources and saying, I heard this from this person, I heard this from that person, we read this in Gita, things like that. But a few ideas, either they're original ideas or the originality is in his life, the way he put them into practice. So a few of the things that I talk about will have to do with some philosophical ideas regarding the nature of reality, the nature of God, and the nature of self. In most of philosophy, and Vedanta in particular, these are the 3 things that have to be dealt with. What is the nature of this absolute reality, Brahman? What is the nature of the individual, Jiva? What is the nature of Jagat, of this external universe? And then there'll be some teachings that go straight to the heart. Some things that really have to deal with this longing of the heart for realization and for purity and all of the things that we need to make our lives blessed. So all of these have tremendous relevance. They're all equally important. And as I say, there may be many other things. Everyone will have their own list. If we had asked you to make a list, what do you think are the essential teachings, that everyone would have the things which have special importance in their own lives from a personal point of view. I want to start out with Joto Mot, Toto Pot. Now, all of the things that I say are going to be things that you've heard over and over again. Nothing will be anything new here. And some of you know that I take this to have a very extensive type of meaning. The traditional understanding is that this refers to all the different spiritual faith traditions, that all of the different traditions are equally paths to God. And Sri Ramakrishna practiced different spiritual paths. I take this in a little bit of a broader sense, that all different spiritual outlooks, all different philosophical positions. So I take this to also apply to those who follow a dualistic path, qualified non-dualistic path, or they're strict Advaitins, that for Sri Ramakrishna, these are all paths. And this is, again, something which I find to be somewhat unique in the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. His understanding of philosophy in general is that it doesn't represent truth in the sense that one spiritual tradition or one school of Vedanta will have some special claim to truth that the other doesn't. And this is where he parts ways with the traditional philosophers, the acharyas, who try to show that there's some logical fallacies in the different other schools, and that their position is really the best position or the most logically infallible tradition, something like that. But we find with Sri Ramakrishna that the question of which is better, which is more logical, which is more soundproof in a philosophical sense, didn't arise for him. It didn't make sense in his mind. Everything was a question of what will be most helpful to the individual, what will be most suitable. And the different traditions that we have, some of them are suitable for people of a certain time and a certain culture, different parts of the world, different traditions, that there's some things that will be very helpful in one context. For other people, they won't be so helpful. And that this is the way Sri Ramakrishna viewed these things. And the real uniqueness of Sri Ramakrishna is that this was not anything theoretical. In theory, we have this. We have this all the way back to the Rig Veda. The ancient rishis, they came up with this tremendous statement that truth is one, ekam sat, and vipara bahudavananti, that these great souls realized that same truth, but they called it in different names. And all of the different gods and goddesses, we generally don't know the second part of that. The second part of that, we get a list of the different deities and everything. So another way of saying that those who worship, in a modern context, those who worship Shiva or Durga or Krishna, Rama, Buddha, Christ, that these are all paths that will take anyone who follows them to that highest goal. And that the only criterion is that somebody has to be very sincere and practice with a great longing and great yearning. So for Sri Ramakrishna, he made this distinction of ruchi bheda, that it has to be something that appeals to us. Now, if we look at the philosophical positions of Sri Ramakrishna, a philosopher will say that he contradicts himself. That sometimes he talks as if he's an out-and-out dualist. We have to have a relationship with God. We have to think of ourselves take a particular bhava. We have to have that relationship. We have to think of ourselves as servant of God, a child of God, any of the relationships, a dualistic type of position. Then he'll talk about the bell fruit. When he talks about the bell fruit, this is the example that's very well suited to the qualified non-dualistic school of Vedanta. That Thakur gives the example that if you take a bell fruit, the essential feature of the bell fruit is the flesh. This is what's used to make it a drink, sherbet. And generally they'll have to remove the seeds and they'll have to take off the hard outer shell. But Sri Ramakrishna says, if you do that, you don't get the full weight. You don't get the full weight of the bell fruit, and he says the outer shell is Jagat. This is the world, and the inner seeds is Jiva. All the different, so there are many Jivas, they're all real, they're all separate. This is qualified non-dualism. Now, there are some people who will say, yes, that he really was a qualified non-dualist. But they're missing the whole point. What he's saying is that for those who like this, if this idea appeals to them, it's very helpful and they can realize the highest truth of that, which is beyond all philosophical positions. So if we look at his idea of this ego is just a stick lying on the surface of water. It doesn't have any real power to separate one side from the other. This stick of ego can be removed, it can be eliminated, then there's only oneness. Then he's an Advaitin. So people can argue what was his real position. His real position was they're all good. I like all of them. And he practiced all of them. If we look at the different ways he did it, the sadhana, that each one will fall under one of these, really. So this was a very wonderful teaching, that it's a question of what appeals to us, Ruti Bheda, and what can we assimilate, Hajam Shakti, what can we digest? So adhikara, what are we qualified to follow? So these were the two criteria, and it didn't make any difference to him. If somebody says, no, I like this dualistic position, I like to think of myself as a child of God, you say, very good. Then proceed with that. And as we proceed further and further in spiritual life, these doctrines and dogmas and philosophical positions become less and less important. When we have that highest realization, it's far beyond any philosophical position. Sri Ramakrishna says the mind has to come down so far, he says for him, even to utter the word Om. So for him, truth is experience. And all of these other examples, analogies, he says these analogies are helpful only to a certain extent. What is Brahman like? Brahman is like Brahman. We can't compare it to anything else. What does ghee taste like? Ghee tastes like ghee. He says there's nothing, we can't compare it to anything else. So this to me is one of the most important teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. It allows us to appreciate all of the different schools. He used to quote this very famous verse that when Sri Rama asked Hanuman, in front of all the people in the royal assembly, how do you look upon me? And he gives really an answer, which is the three different schools of Vedanta. If I think of myself as an individual body and everything, then I like to think that you're the master and I'm the servant. If I think of myself as a jiva, qualified non-dualism, then you're the whole and I'm a part. If I think of myself as the Atman, then you and I are one and the same. There's no difference whatsoever. So all the question of our point of view and our mood at the time and everything, not that any one of the three positions contradicts any of the others. So this Jotama Totopat is not simply for all the different religious traditions, but all the different attitudes, spiritual attitudes that we can take. Now the other very nice thing philosophically that Ramakrishna does is that he harmonizes the Advaitic position and the devotional position, and he also can explain how we can look upon this world as something real and at the same time appreciate the need in the beginning to distinguish between that which is real and that which is transitory. So some people say that he was contradicting Shankaracharya because Shankaracharya says this world is unreal and he says no, this world is a manifestation of the divine. That's not really his position. His position is that in the beginning, when we're so tied up, we can't distinguish between the real and the unreal, between the real self and all of the coverings of it, then we have to practice neti. If we're following the path of Jnana Yoga, we have to practice that and distinguish between that which is permanent and that which is superimposed and that which we take to be permanent but is not permanent. And this is how, this neti, that we get to the roof, and after that then we see. Then we can see that everything is divine. So he doesn't reject anything. He has a wonderful way of explaining that this neti neti is for the purpose of sadhana. He doesn't take this world as being unreal as a final position. He takes this as an attitude that we take in order to disentangle ourselves, and in order to have a little detachment and a little renunciation to understand the transitory nature of everything. And when we get to these terms, asat and anitya and avastu, all of these different terms, they have a philosophical value and they have an emotional value also. So we can say that this world is 100% real and at the same time understand that there's nothing to it. There's no substance to it. There's something hollow about it, that it can't fulfill that deeper longing that I have. We don't have to take it as a philosophical idea. So Sri Ramakrishna explains that that's why he prefers anitya. He doesn't like to talk about this world unreal like a dream or just a fantasy of the mind, but it's important in his view for us to understand that there's nothing to hold on to in it, and that it's going to leave. Or if it doesn't leave us, we're going to leave it. We're going to leave everything behind. So he has a wonderful way of also harmonizing this and this idea that this ego sense, if it doesn't leave us, then he says, let the rascal remain. Let it remain as a servant of God. If the passions don't leave us, then utilize them. Turn them into passion for God. So everything is positive with him. Even renunciation. Don't think about leaving things behind. Have something greater that you want to pull yourselves toward. Now, with regard to spiritual practice, he emphasized some things that for him were very important. One is this forming a relationship with God, assuming a new identity for ourselves. See, if we can't get rid of this idea of ego sense, then at least get rid of this ego that's tied in with the body, have some relationship with God. So this new type of this relationship, so he says, arop kora, superimpose some new idea about who you are. Start to think of yourself as if you were Hanuman and trying to serve Sri Rama. This type of idea. Then he has a whole list of things that he considers to be most important in spiritual life. Generally, number one is holy company. When he's asked, and he's asked many, many times, upaiki, what are the means to realize God? Most often, he will say, number one is a holy company. Now, what's so great about holy company? We receive something directly. We get some feeling of a conviction. We see how peace comes through leading a spiritual life. It doesn't have to be somebody who's God-realized. Somebody who's leading a spiritual life and has developed a little peace and a little contentment in life. So we get all of these different benefits from this one practice of holy company. And one thing that Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes, not just holy company, because somebody asked him once, what is the real value of holy company? And he said, it begets longing for God, vyakuluta. Another time he said, the whole purpose of sadhana is that it brings this longing for God. That means that part of what we do in spiritual life, our spiritual practice, is meant to show us that left to our own devices, we won't be able to do it. That we need some grace. And we have to reach that point where we have this real sharanagati. To use this example of the bird on the mast. The bird has to fly in every direction first and exhaust itself. Then it can practice sharanagati. So he says the purpose of all spiritual practice is to get this vyakulata, this longing for God. This was such an important part of his teaching that some people claim that he taught us vyakulata yoga. That this was really one of his main teachings. Then, one other thing was vairagya, that he always connected this with anuraga. Almost every time that we hear about this, that this distaste for the world, not caring for things and trying to escape, it's just escapism if there's nothing positive on the other side. And the easy way to escape it is to have some great longing for something else. So if we have nothing that we have positive to hold on to, if we just say, I'm tired of this world, I'd get no pleasure, no joy from it, then there's not much to keep us from just some type of depression and everything. But if we know that there's something there that is the ultimate goal of life. This is why his example of pressing the head under the water, it has two aspects to it. One, the disciple says that I felt that I would die if I couldn't get out of that. So we feel that somehow this world is like a burning forest fire. We want to get out. But the other thing is I was gasping for a breath of air. That means longing for God. So these two things always go together in Thakur's teachings, this vairagya and anuraga. Then a couple of other things, I'll just mention two other things that lead to this vyakulata, solitude and prayer. After Holy Company, very often Sri Ramakrishna says, go into solitude from time to time. We go into solitude, then we really find out what's important to us. And we eliminate all distractions. We can really focus and really feel, what are our priorities? What do we really want out of life? And then prayer. That if we can pray with tremendous longing, with tears in our eyes, that this will be the quickest way. If we can weep for God for 24 hours in this Kali Yuga, we can realize God. So these are just a few of the things that struck me, and I will now stop here and request Swami Swahananda to tell us some of the essential teachings of Swami Vivekananda. And remember, you can start writing things down.
Namaskar. Swami Vivekananda is one of those rare personalities in whom we can say the universal spirit has found a perfect expression. He reinterpreted the fundamental spiritual truths in modern terms in a way that enlightens us on the perennial problems of human existence. And his special contribution to the present age is a universal message that aims to bring about the moral and spiritual uplift of all people. I think that is his most essential contribution, and which is helpful to our harmonious, holistic living, regardless of any differences, whatever. In his scheme of life, there is no inherent conflict between reason and faith, or between science and spirituality, between action and contemplation, or even between monastic and social ideals. So he truly built a bridge between the ancient and the modern. In doing so, he has fulfilled a vital need of our times for a universal message and a comprehensive view of life. He was perfectly qualified for this divine mission, which was the reconstruction of humanity on a spiritual foundation. This is the reason why there has been such enthusiastic response to his life-giving teachings. Now, when we study Swami Vivekananda's works, we find that his teaching is in fact a unified statement offering clues to the solution of our basic problems, both in individual and collective life. There are about a dozen ideas that form his main teaching, And in this short talk, I would only like to highlight just a couple of them, and those that are not even the most important of his teachings. First of all, after his study of human society, Swamiji arrived at the conclusion that the final solution of human problems rests on the moral and spiritual life of individuals. He was convinced that no amount of force or government or legislation could change the condition of a people. Only ethical and spiritual culture had the power to change wrong tendencies for the better. It was clear to him that the soul itself should change for the better, and that alone could cure the evils of life. This is where spirituality goes to the root of the matter. If that is right, then all is right. The basis of all social systems rests upon the goodness of people. No nation becomes great because its parliament enacted this or that law. It is great because its people are good. So Swamiji directed his attention to the individual. He wanted to make the individual spiritually strong, to teach people that they were divine. He called upon people to become aware of this divinity within themselves, because he believed that this was really the ideal. Whether it is obvious or obscure, this was the ideal that of every religion or spiritual tradition. He famously said, "It is man-making religion that we want. It is man-making theories that we want. It is man-making education that we want. And here is the test of truth. Anything that makes you weak, anything that makes you weak physically, intellectually, and spiritually, reject as poison. There is no life in it. It cannot be true. Truth is strengthening. Truth is purity. Truth is all knowledge. Truth must be strengthening, must be enlightening, must be invigorating." Those are Swamiji's words. Even to hear these words is so invigorating. But now, if moral and spiritual strength are the answer to all human problems, it follows as a natural corollary that the goal of civilization is the same as the goal of spirituality. Civilization, true civilization, according to Swamiji, means the power of lifting the animal human out of his sense life by giving him visions and tastes of higher levels of existence. No race can be called civilized just because it has conquered the external world and increased the luxuries of material existence. It is possible to accomplish all this and still not understand that the highest type of civilization is found only in those who have learned to conquer the self. In Swamiji's view, this universe is simply a gymnasium where our soul gets some good exercise. And after the workout, we are supposed to become gods. So the value of everything is to be decided by how far it helps in the manifestation of the inherent divinity. So civilization is nothing but the expression of that divinity in the human being. The more spiritually advanced a society is, the more civilized it is. Just as in this age we have become intensely practical, we also need to become deeply spiritual. A union of these two aspects was Swamiji's ideal of a great civilization. But the question is how to create this ideal type of human race. What do we really need in order to convert this ideal into reality? Swami Vivekananda held that the most important thing was faith in oneself. Faith in oneself is the secret of a person's growth. That is the source of all strength. Human development means the unfoldment of our potential capacities. So, self-belief is of the greatest help to us. Swamiji observed that this faith in oneself was the most potent motive power in the lives of all great people. They believed that they could become great, and they became great. So the presence or absence of this self-belief makes all the difference from one person and another. Swamiji stressed this idea of faith in oneself so much that he went to the extent of saying, he is an atheist who doesn't believe in himself. The old religion said that he was an atheist who didn't believe in God. The new religion says that he is the atheist who doesn't believe in himself. But let us not misunderstand this great teaching. Faith in oneself, as Swamiji meant it, is not the ordinary self-centered faith. Swamiji was only preaching Vedanta in modern idiom. And Vedanta is nothing if not the doctrine of oneness. So, faith in oneself implies faith in all. Love for oneself means love for all, love for everything, because we are all one. Swamiji believed that it was this higher faith, that we are all divine, that would make our world better. We all have our faults and weaknesses, of course, but Swamiji constantly reminds us of our real nature. He says that this is the only way to rise above faults, the only way to cure our weakness. He was sure of that. For over a century, that is, since the advent of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, we have been dreaming of grand things like interreligious harmony and universal religion. But before they can become social realities, we have to first take care of the basic moral aspect of our lives. Swamiji's teachings provide Vedantic solutions to our questions even here. According to Vedanta, the spiritual oneness of humankind is the foundation of morality. It might surprise us. A vision of this unity is the way to universal love and happiness. Swamiji explains, as rational people, we want to know the why of things. And in matters of morality and ethics, it is difficult for us to accept injunctions and prohibitions laid down by another human being, however great, or supposedly divine. That is to say, an authoritarian ethics derived from mere human sanction is no longer satisfactory. For ethical and moral codes to be binding, we need something more. We want something enduring, a constant principle of truth as a sanction of ethics. Swamiji points out that the eternal sanction is to be found in the one infinite reality which exists in each and all of us. This oneness of the infinite, non-dual self is the eternal sanction and the rationale for all our ethics, morality, and spirituality. So the entire subject of ethics and morality, Swamiji summarized in one short, simple line. Selfishness is immorality, selflessness is morality. That's all. We are asked to love one another. But why? What for? The explanation of that doctrine is here. Why should I love everyone? Because they and I are not brothers and sisters. They and I are one. There is this oneness, this solidarity of the whole world. From the lowest human being to the highest, we all have different bodies, but the same indwelling soul. When we have this idea, when we feel it and realize it, the first thing that happens is fear ceases, because there is nothing other than me. Then comes true love and real happiness. That universal sympathy, love, and joy is unchanging, and it lifts us above everything. The whole cause of the problem of morality, Swamiji said, is dualism. The idea that we are separate from one another, separate from God, separate from the world. But as soon as we realize that I am the self of the universe, we are free. Fear vanishes, and in its place stands love. Having said that, Swamiji still recognized that each individual has to move towards the highest ideal, call it God or reality, from where they are and along their own lines of development. He said, take people where they stand and from there give them a lift. In any society, people are not all of the same temperament, capacity, or ability. They have to have different ideals, and we have no right to judge any ideal. Let everyone do the best they can for realizing their own ideals. It is not right that I should be judged by your standard or you by mine. As Swamiji said, the apple tree shouldn't be judged by the standard of the oak, nor the oak by that of the apple. To judge the apple tree, you must take the apple standard, and for the oak, its own standard. At the same time, Swamiji also knew that unity in variety is the plan of creation. However people may vary individually, there is unity in the background. Our different individual characters are only natural variations in creation. So it would be wrong for us to judge others by our standard or place our ideal before everybody else. That only creates an unnatural struggle. And the result is that people begin to hate themselves if they are not able to rise up to those ideals and are hindered from becoming pure and religious. We ought to encourage everybody in their struggle to live up to their own highest ideal and try at the same time to make that ideal as near to the truth as possible. That is all we can do, and that is what we ought to do. Swamiji said, through high philosophy or low, through the most exalted mythology or the grossest, through the most refined ritualism or errant fetishism, every soul, every sect, every religion, consciously or unconsciously, is struggling upward towards God. Every vision of truth that human beings have is a vision of Him and of none else.
We saved Holy Mother for last. The teachings of Holy Mother cannot really be said to be different from the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna or Swamiji, really, but sometimes they seem a little bit softer, maybe a little bit more practical, maybe a little more relevant to us. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna's teachings seem a little bit too high, that we wonder, is it really possible to give up all desires and all worldliness and renounce everything? So there's something soothing about the teachings of Holy Mother. I find, many of us, I think, agree. And I'll mention just a few things. Again, these are the things that we know, but sometimes the things that we read most often and think that we understand the best require a little deeper thought. So I want to start out with what we know as the final message of Holy Mother. This is something that took place just a few days, 5 days before she passed away. There was a devotee that we only know as Annapurna's mother. And she had a close relationship with the Holy Mother, and this is the last utterance that Holy Mother made that we take to be something of very great significance. I'm gonna read it in Bengali because her language is very beautiful and very sweet. It starts out with "Tobe ekti kotha boli." Let me say one thing. And Ma, she says, my child. She would address the women that way. Jodi shanti chao ma, karo dosh dekho na. Dosh dekhbe nijer. Jodke apnar kore nite shekho. Ke opor noy ma, jogot tomar. There are about 5 different things in this. And it starts out with, if you want peace of mind. So this is the first thing of importance, that if we're told, don't do this fault finding, that there's something wrong with it, that only bad people do that. We teach children that don't criticize others. But what's the harm in doing it? People get joy out of it sometimes. Yeah. But what is Holy Mother saying? She's not saying that, this is something terrible, that you'll go to hell for these things. She said, no, it's up to you. If you want peace of mind, and you can eliminate this habit, you'll find that it'll be tremendously helpful for you. So she's placing it in a very nice way. Jodi shanti chaoma. Oh, my child, if you want peace of mind, then don't see the faults of others. This is also very difficult to know what it means. Don't look for the faults of others. Don't do fault finding. We know that Holy Mother was very well capable of seeing shortcomings in other people, that we don't want to be foolish people, and that we can't distinguish between someone of good character and bad character. But the 2 things. One is looking for it, is trying to find faults in others, and the other is our attitude towards these, what we can say, bad qualities in other people. That Holy Mother had the ability to see these as just qualities that other people had. she took the judgmental aspect out of it. I always go back to the story of the saint and the scorpion. The saint doesn't say the scorpion, what a horrible animal this is. Every time I say that it stings me, he says, no, this is the nature of the scorpion. So if we just change this idea of dosha to guna or lakshana, if we just change, made one simple little change, that means that we're taking the judgmental aspect out of it. And then she gives another brilliant idea that the second we start thinking that we see faults in others, that means we're saying that we're better than them. Yeah, that's really what it means. That we won't do it if we're convinced that we have that same fault and it's even worse. So she says the second you start to think like that, then say to yourself, don't I also have plenty of faults? Aren't I better off trying to deal with my own faults? So nija dostako. So try to, and again, not that we're trying to be overly self-critical, not that we want to have a poor self-image, not that we want to say, oh, I'm a terrible sinner, but just to recognize that there are things that we have to work on. We get angry too quickly, we're a little too jealous, whatever it is. That we're far better off concentrating on that than on somebody else's fault. And she herself said that, and it's hard for us to believe, but she said that she had that bad quality, that bad habit of finding fault when she was young. And she used to pray that it could be eliminated from her. And then later she would say, yes, that this habit of finding fault, she said, now I'm incapable of it. She had very beautiful teachings. She said that I cannot see others' faults. I am simply not made that way. There are enough people always ready to criticize others. Surely the world will not come to an end if I refrained from doing so. So she considered this a great stain on her character, that she would criticize other people, see the faults of other people. And she used to pray looking at the moon and say, there's a stain even on the moon. We say the man in the moon, there's a little, or a hair, Shashanka, there's a little mark on the moon. She said, even on the moon there's a stain. But Mother, please make my mind stainless. A very beautiful prayer. So, this idea of seeing faults in others also goes back to what Swamiji was just saying, because we see others as separate and different from ourselves. So she says, Keo Poronoi, nobody's a stranger. That if we even go to the extent of comparing the way we judge other people to the way we would judge a very near and dear one, our own relative, that we won't be so quick to just dismiss them, the poor character, this and that. If we really feel that oneness, then we'll have a charitable attitude. We won't take any joy in criticizing them. So she says, learn to feel that everyone is your own. So all of these things in this one beautiful statement. So this is that one. Now, another great statement that Holy Mother made that I like very much, very important, I think. She said, Shodjo shaman gune or shanto shaman dhonne. Very beautiful, really, how she gets to the heart of everything, that there's no virtue equal to forbearance, and there's no treasure equal to contentment. See how practical it is. How practical. One doesn't have to believe in God even. One doesn't have to have any higher, deeper spiritual sensitivity to understand that sometimes we have to accept things and we have to learn to put up with them and to greet them cheerfully, and to understand that the best thing that we can do is just be strong in the face of it and just put up with it and bear it. And that this contentment, she's not talking about God realization. Of course, that'll bring the ultimate contentment. But even to be able to live in this world without constantly being frustrated, without constantly thinking, oh, if only I had this, if only I could do that, to have that contentment, it comes from acceptance, sharanagati, and forbearance. These two things are very closely related. And Holy Mother had to practice this forbearance in her own life because she had brothers that were so selfish and constantly fighting and after her money. She had to raise not only Radhu, two other nieces, they were all troublesome. She had Radhu's mother who was mad. She had to look after so many of her own disciples. Her life was very difficult. She had to spend, 30 years of her life without Sri Ramakrishna. How she managed to live in this world after he passed away. She had no desire to live, she said, only because she had the vision from time to time. And the talk was saying, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here beside you, only I've gone to a different room. Only because of that, she was able to put up with that terrible grief that she had on the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. And many of the direct disciples passed away before she did. That was also a terrible thing for her. That really, she was have it broken each time because the power to love was so much greater than the power of detachment in Holy Mother, and in Sri Ramakrishna, and in Swamiji. This detachment is highly overrated with regard to the ability to love. And we see this in the life of all three of them, that they had an attachment to other people that was absolutely free, had nothing to do with any selfish motive or anything. So that when they lost a loved one, they really could feel it. When others suffered, how they could feel it. How Swamiji suffered at the suffering of others. But not for any selfish motive. That's the difference between that type of suffering. So anyhow, Holy Mother, she mastered this art of forbearance. She used to say, Jai Shoi Shedoi, Jai Na Shoi Se Na Shoi. Beautiful, beautiful expressions that those who can forbear will survive in this world, and those who can't, they'll be destroyed. So this is a very great teaching of Holy Mother. And what attitude do we take? This is another interesting thing. For Sri Ramakrishna, he would very often say that it's the will of the Divine Mother. What can we do? Accept everything as the will of the Divine Mother. What did Swamiji say? Don't blame anybody else. It's your own karma. But Holy Mother was so practical. She didn't even require any cause or explanation or anything. She just said, this is the way it is. There's another beautiful statement that she made. Again, I'll read it in Bengali because it's so sweet. Deo dharon korle dukho koshto achei. Vidhataro khamata nei ei rod korbar. So, if you take a human body, you're going to suffer. Very simple. Very simple. It's going to break down. Something's going to happen. You don't have to say, Mother wanted it. This is for my benefit. This is my karma. Just accept the fact that we live in this body. There's going to be some type of suffering. We live in society. There'll be some type of suffering. The Lord himself is incapable of preventing it. Imagine. We think, we'll pray to God, everything will be fine. So you pray to Thakur, he'll take care of everything. Vidhataro komatane. Even the controller, the Lord of the whole universe, he's not going to be able to make it so that we can get through life unscathed. It's not going to happen. We have to learn how to deal with it. Then, she says, Tobe, Shanti Chaile, again, if you want peace. Then what do? Shadhon bhajan koro. Then do some spiritual practice. Call on God. Do your meditation. Do your worship. So this is a very, very beautiful teaching about this forbearance and acceptance. Acceptance. We don't have to question everything. We do this. Oh, what did I do wrong? I must have done something terrible for this to happen. And how is it that we're the ones who had to suffer and others don't suffer and everything? We try to find explanations for everything. Of course, no harm if we like this karma idea, fine. Then we can stick to it. We like this idea, Divine Mother is in charge, whatever happens as mothers, well, fine. But we have to learn to deal with it and accept it. And if we want to simply say, that life is like that, everybody's going to have it, but she gives the solution. The solution, learn how to practice forbearance. And how do we learn forbearance? We have to do some spiritual practice, and we have to learn some detachment. Detachment and sharanagati. And just surrender, that we have to be able to accept all of that. And that itself will lead to santosha, to some type of contentment. This idea of contentment, even for worldly people, is something very important. That if somebody is not a spiritual person per se, but they're a good person, they practice dharma, a dharmic person, that they raise a good family, they have a good job, they contribute to society, that they feel that they've done whatever should be done in terms of ordinary social life, they'll have contentment at the end. If someone leads a spiritual life, if they feel that I may not have realized anything in this life, but I was sincere, I did my spiritual practice, I did everything that I possibly could have, and I accept whatever happens. It wasn't my lot in life to have God realization, okay. But to feel that we've really led a sincere type of life, spiritual life, family life, everything, will lead to this contentment, and it's really, what a wonderful treasure. If we can say that, yes, I'm content, that I don't ask anything more of life, that I feel it was a blessing, that whatever good came, whatever bad came, that I have no regrets, that I don't have any frustration or anything, to have that type of contentment. So, how do we do that? Again, we have to have some type of spiritual life, most of us. Most of us. If we want to have that type of contentment, then we have to go a little bit deep. Feel this, there's a deeper level of reality within, and that's our true home. This is again Thakur's teaching, that this is the real home for us. Everything is a little bit secondary. No matter how much we try to do in this world, we'll leave it behind us. That our real home is with God, and that if we can develop that through spiritual practice, then we can really have that deeper type of contentment. So I'm going to stop here, and two of us will go over and sit there, and we hope that you've written some questions, or if you want to simply ask a question, you can, and then we'll do our best to answer them. He can whisper to me, and then I'll tell you what he says. Okay, the first question is how to concentrate more. Maharaj.
I have a script like this. Depends how much interest, whatever it is that you want to concentrate upon, holds for you. Wherever there is very deep interest in something, we don't find it hard to concentrate. Lovers don't find it difficult to concentrate on the objects of their love. So I think the answer is there. If something is very gripping, then I can. Yeah, of course. Then you could say the question wouldn't have arisen. So the question actually comes down to, yeah, how can I have love for something so that concentration is no problem. Yeah, that is probably I made the question harder for myself now. Yeah.
Good answer. Yeah. No, that's really a very good answer. That if something really appeals to the mind, attracts the mind, then we'll easily get concentrated. If concentration is just a question of willpower, how much strength of mind do we have? And we're trying to concentrate on something when the desire for other things is so much greater, then we'll lose. So I think it's a perfect answer that, you can hear me, huh? You know, yeah. So, yeah. That, yeah. It hums. It still hums. That if we're really talking about meditation and concentrating on Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother or whatever our Ishta Devata is, then we have to develop that deep feeling of love with Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother. If we can immerse ourselves in the thought of them through reading about them, through talking about them, through this Lila Dhyana. I like this idea, that just remembering this divine play that they enacted on this earth, then we'll find that the mind develops a taste. This, I talked about Ruchi Bheda, this Ruchi. This is very important in spiritual life. We developed a real taste that sometimes they name ruchi, taste for the name or taste for the personality, that if we can do that, then concentration becomes a natural type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also depends who is asking the question. If it is a student, we don't know. Maybe if you have a burning ambition, maybe that makes the technique is not so important as that love or ambition.
But you know, if we talk about concentration, the way we read about it in Raja Yoga and everything, that will make the mind so one-pointed that the mind virtually merges ekagrata into that. This is very rare. We shouldn't expect that as a very realistic goal for ourselves in spiritual life. And better to make that little one-pointed thing, make it a little bit bigger. That bigger circle that we can add the personality and this the lila and everything. Then it becomes a little more realistic. If the pinpoint of our focus is so small, then every chance that the mind will wander. Yeah, and this abhyasa yoga, it doesn't work the way it does with training a dog. The mind is really clever. It finds other outlets and things. So this is why that Sri Ramakrishna always adds this anuraga, as Maharaj was saying. Vairagya, just lessen the attraction for the things that are pulling the mind away. Lessen that attraction and increase the attraction for that object that we want to concentrate on. Okay, then Thakur says hiss. Mother says forbearance. What is the middle road between the two? I don't personally find any contradiction. There's Thakur also talks about forbearance. There's other things, shaw, you know, this expression. This is from Sri Ramakrishna. So he also understood What he was saying was that if we can prevent some difficult situation, and if we can do it without lowering our standards and harming other people, then we should do it. We shouldn't be doormats. Holder Mother would say the same thing. There's no real difference in their teaching on this. We shouldn't let people walk all over us. But this is where we have to be very sensible types of people, very sensible people that in the world of ordinary people with the jobs that they have, that there'll be times when we can either compromise or we can lose the job. We know that this is the reality of things. So sometimes we have to compromise a little bit, but not anything that's a real principle. You know, this big distinction between something that's a principle and something that's just an opinion. And we should be flexible. I mentioned the Swami Turiyananda. He said when it comes to opinions, then flow like the river. When it comes to principle, be like the rock that doesn't move. So if our principle is we won't injure anybody, but if we can at least make them feel that, you know, be a little careful. You can't just walk all over me. You don't know what I may do. Yeah. So Thakur was very practical with that particular teaching. But in the end, we have to practice forbearance. We can't change everything in this world. I like that, what is it called, Serenity Prayer. That, oh Lord, let me change the things that I can change, and let me accept the things that I can't, something like that, and give me the understanding to know the difference. What things I can change, what things I can't, what things I have to practice forbearance, and what things I can. Swamiji, he makes a great statement. He said that turning the other cheek and not reacting is only for the sannyasin. The householder has to fight back. Yeah. Go ahead.
The hissing is actually part of the enduring. Sri Ramakrishna said, never inject your poison into in your sting, but you can hiss. So even when you are hissing, you are enduring things.
Swamiji gave equal stress to all four yogas for enlightenment. However, in a number of places in the Kotamrita we see, Thakur has told, for Kali Yuga, Bhakti Yoga is the path. He also mentioned in a few places in Kotamrita that those who say, I am Brahman, the one who says is a fool, which means Thakur often tried to show Jnana Yoga as not effective as Bhakti Yoga. Why is this so?
Part of it I can... One reason is because Sri Ramakrishna, as his teachings are recorded in the Gospel, was speaking mainly to lay people, lay disciples. For them it is really very difficult to practice Jnana Yoga. And Swamiji, even though he was talking about Jnana Yoga also to lay people, his audience was different. Many of them were younger, you could imagine, more energetic. They still had time on their side. Swamiji believed that these principles of Advaita Vedanta should be given and taken up when minds are still young and fresh. This is one part of the reason.
Yeah, also, we shouldn't confuse Sri Ramakrishna's emphasis on Bhakti Yoga with lack of interest in Advaita Vedanta. That if we really look at his teachings, this Bhakti Yoga is practiced utilizing this sense of I that will disappear eventually. So he's really giving all of the highest teachings of Jnana Yoga, but in a very practical way, saying that we know that we have a basic misunderstanding, which is natural to all people. Even in Gita, even Shankaracharya admits those who have too much attachment to the body, which is everybody, for them it's very difficult to say, I am he, to have this real this attitude. So what Sri Ramakrishna is telling most of them, that understand the real nature of oneness. Understand this ego is hiding this, the oneness of the individual with his ultimate reality, but that if that's your only path, and you have no other means of realizing it other than the power of your intellect, it'll be very difficult. Because this natural feeling of identification with the body keeps coming back. So there's a nice statement that was made by Swami Paramehananda. He said that followers of Sri Ramakrishna are Advaitavadins and Dvaitakarins. That means that philosophically we accept this idea of ultimately the oneness, that the jiva, the individuality of the jiva is based on false identification with the body and the mind. We understand that, but from a practical point of view, that if the sense of I doesn't leave, then utilize it. Then let the rascal remain as the servant of God. So he's being very practical, that's all. Second thing is that Swamiji he had a different task. He had to really spread the highest truth to let it reach as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. So I have the feeling that he was like someone who had a seed, and they have no time to really find the best possible ground for it. They throw it everywhere. We find this illustration in the Bible, actually, one of Jesus' teachings, that some will fall on rock and it won't germinate, some in fallow land, and some will find the proper land for it. So let those who can understand it benefit from it. Those who can't, at least they will have heard it once in their lifetime. This was another the attitude that Swami Vivekananda had. He used to give mantra, give initiation to very young people. And sometimes he was asked, will they appreciate it? He said, no, they won't appreciate it now. But one day, they'll say, oh, now I understood what I received earlier. It's like giving someone a precious gem and telling them to keep it in your pocket. And then later when they get older, they'll say, oh, what a precious thing that I've been given. So I think that Swamiji's attitude was like that a little bit, while Sri Ramakrishna was training up individuals. And he knew what was best for each and every one of them. For Swamiji, he emphasized this in Jnana Yoga more. For most of the others, this Bhakti Yoga allows us to use the natural emotions that we all feel based on relationships that we all know. That we're all children of the parents, we all have friends, all of these different relationships. We know the things that appeal to the heart. So he says, utilize these things. And this is the path of Jnana Yoga, that we have to be very strict and stern and not too attached to the world and everything from the very beginning. So
because we often apply Jnana Yoga to others, but when it comes to ourselves,
if Brahman is consciousness and the same consciousness is within myself, how can we then pray? How can I pray to myself? Yeah, this is a statement that has some truth to it, and those who really follow this path of Jnana Yoga, that they may not pray to God in the same way that others do. Their concept of Brahman will be impersonal reality, and even Swamiji says at different times, and depending on his mood, that we're praying to our very own self. Now, if we want to be jnanis and bhaktas at the same time, we can say yes, that I'm praying to my very own self. That self is also the self of the whole universe. It doesn't mean this individual small self. So that Brahman, which is manifest within me, is not limited to me. So I can say that that self within me, that's nothing but the sun being reflected within me. But the same sun is reflected all over, and it's the source of light and heat and sustenance and everything else, that also is worthy of worship. It won't be the same type of worship of the personal God that more dualistic traditions have. But we can again understand if this stick of ego is there, then it gives me the feeling that I'm on one side and that God is on the other side. That the wave can easily feel tremendous reverence for the whole ocean, even though it knows that it's the same water. So I think Sri Ramakrishna really tried to show how we can have a deeper understanding of this idea of oneness, and at the same time feel that desire to offer ourselves to something larger, like this small wave in the whole ocean, and to do it through prayer also. But those who are real jnanis, they won't look upon prayer as really probably their main spiritual practice. They'll be more interested in meditation and vichara, and constantly discriminating what is the real nature of the self.
Yeah, but if I'm always aware that the same consciousness that is in Brahman is also in me, then there would be no need to practice this so-called Viveka also. Why apply it only to prayer? Then I won't be able to, there won't be any necessity to practice discernment as a spiritual discipline. No?
You can read it. Can you read it?
Yeah, I can read, but my voice is too...
Okay, I'll read it.
No, you answer.
No, I'll read it in your end.
The doctrine of karma is, as per many talks I've heard, a hypothesis. As far as I have read and heard, even the enlightened masters haven't had any experience or peek into the law of karma. Then how have the ancient sages come up with such complex theories consisting of sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, etc.? Are there any proofs of the doctrine of karma? For example, has any enlightened master experienced that because of certain karma in previous life, he or she was getting certain phala in this life?
This theory of karma has two separate aspects to it. One is psychological, that whatever I do and whatever I experience, whatever I think, will have some effect on my mind and my character, and I will turn into that type of person. I don't think that anyone can argue against this. It's a very sound psychological doctrine. Now, if we get into certain things, I remember some Buddhist traditions that if you kill an animal, you'll be born again the same number of times as the number of hairs on the body of that animal. Things like that. Yeah. There's no way to prove these things. There's no way to prove exactly that, and we don't know exactly how all of this works. So this idea, this metaphysical aspect of karma, it makes sense, it's logical, but if we're looking for some definite proof, then it's very hard to say. I take it as more of a spiritual attitude. I like this idea of spiritual attitude. That if we can feel that whatever we have to go through in this lifetime, that we don't blame anybody else. That it's because of what we ourselves have done somehow. Then it's a very helpful type of thing. It helpful for this idea of surrender and acceptance and santosha, this idea of contentment. But if we're looking for a hard and fast proof, I don't think we'll find it. Swami Vivekananda says in one place that this is a working hypothesis and the best explanation we have at present. We may have a better understanding of these things later.
But did we say that about karma?
Karma, yes. Yes.
Because at least to me, it is not mere hypothesis. When sages and mystics have, of the order of Buddha, have spoken about it, and there is nothing, it is quite reasonable. And in a certain book, I read that no human mind, however great it is, can have a comprehensive understanding of the law of karma. It is not a theory of karma, it is the law of karma. Then when you change these words, you will know that it is a perfectly believable scientific thing. Cause and effect. There is nothing that you can disbelieve about it. But only God has an understanding, has a comprehensive understanding of how the law of karma operates, because the law of karma is nothing but his own will in action. How karma operates is how God's will expresses itself. Just today morning we read, if you eat a chili, you don't jhal lagve na?
Yeah. Won't your tongue burn?
Yeah. Won't your tongue burn?
And is it that if there is no law of karma, that means we will not have many births also?
No, that is built into the creation.
Yeah. So if there is no law of karma,
That is a hypothesis.
The doctrine of it.
Yeah.
then I will have one birth, one death.
No. How can you be so certain? Then, if you don't have any law holding things together, then there'll be chaos instead of order, cosmos. Huh?
See, there's a lot of leeway here, how strictly we want to take it. There'll be some people who believe when we're born that we're destined to have a certain number of breaths in this lifetime, and that's it. And how many people believe that? How many people don't go to a doctor, don't take medicine because, hey, what difference will it make? It's all predetermined. This is the most extreme, of course. For Sri Ramakrishna, he emphasizes mostly this idea of samskaras. So for him, that's the most important, according to my understanding, the most important part is that we're all born with certain tendencies. This prarabdha karma, that we're destined for this or for that, he said, yes, he believes it, but it's not inflexible. That those who become great devotees of God, if they're destined to be done in with a sword, they'll get a pinprick instead, something like that. So he accepts it, but he doesn't accept it in such a strict sense. If we say it's the law of cause and effect, then of course we can all understand it. But even that, we don't know. Cause and effect is not so simple. The very interesting conversation that takes place with Lava and Kusha. And I remember who was talking to Hanuman, probably. He was saying, look how great Rama is, how just by his touch, Ahilya went from being a block of stone to back to being a human being. And they said, was it the touch of Rama, or was it the words of the sage Gautama, who said when Rama touches her? So that point is that it's not so easy to know what the real cause of things, cause and effect. It's a very complex type of thing. Yeah. But I think if we can at least accept this idea of samskaras, that nothing that we experience won't leave a mark. And that if we lead a pure life, it'll lead to purification. We go telling lies, we'll become liars. This is something I think is indisputable. If each and every action is determined by what we did in the past, then we question this idea of free will also. So there's a lot of leeway in how we take this law of karma, because there is something speculative, even if we may say it's a law. And our understanding of it is very imperfect. We can at least say that much.
They also say that, if you're for doing karma yoga,
Hmm.
every time you do a karma yoga, you also create more karma as a result of it, right? And so that's why they say that instead of doing karma yoga, that's why in Kali Yuga it is really better for all of us to follow bhakti yoga, right?
No, the remedy for that is not to do karma yoga. The remedy is to do all action without any selfish motive and without any attachment.
As yoga.
As a yoga, yeah. And actually to do it as worship. The Swamiji raises it even higher than that. Then there will be no binding aspect to it. It'll free us also. Yeah. Okay. Do you think that leading the good spiritual life is harder for a householder than a monastic?
I have no experience of depending on my samskaras. Yeah, that depends much on. I've also seen exceptionally spiritual householders, and I've also seen
Very indifferent
all sorts of-
monastics. I think it's a question of what is a good fit for us. Yeah. Those who really can live in the world unattached, that can really do everything as worship, can see God and husband and wife and children and everything, and then they can lead a very good spiritual life. Those who are monks, that mind is filled with desires and ambitions and things, and that'll be difficult for them. So there's not such a clear-cut thing. One is easier than the other.
For me, this has been the best for
Yeah,
my
of
spiritual
course, of course. Yeah, of course. When so much suffering happens, we're late already. Should we continue or break for tea?
Not break means then again you will come.
No, next thing is Arati, 6:30. Yeah, we can't go all the way to 6:30.
Oh, no.
We'll go quickly and see. When so much suffering is happening in the world, for example, wars, how do we keep being positive and not be upset for people suffering?
Yeah, we don't have to feel upset. We can pray. We can pray. Getting upset won't help anybody, but praying helps.
Praying helps us.
Of course.
Praying helps us. We hope it helps the situation. Yeah.
If it is intense and if you can keep up that feeling, of course, it does help.
How to balance a boastful, it is egotistic, contemporary society, function in it, yet make
Tomorrow,
make
transform,
Kanchami to Pakami. Okay. Yeah, we have to deal with the society that we live in. We have to make the best of it. We have to understand that society will never be perfect, that we have to navigate our way around it. We have to practice a little bit of detachment. This balance between engagement and detachment. This is something that is a great skill and a great art. Those people who can be detached and at the same time be a force for good in society. This is the optimal thing. If it's possible, if we see injustice, we should do something to a certain extent. If we get too involved in it and we can't handle it, then it's not good for us either. So there's all a question of balance. We don't expect society to be perfect. Sometimes we see these terrible wars and horrible things going on, and it hurts us, of course. Yeah, if it doesn't, then it means we're not human beings. But we shouldn't lose our balance over it somehow. Yeah, we have to have a little perspective on these things. It's difficult. Anything? And this transition from the ripe eye from the green eye, unripe eye, to the ripe eye. Anything? Somebody's phone. Yeah, of course, Ramakrishna says, by have a relationship with God, cease to identify with your ordinary social position in life. Think of yourselves in terms of this relationship, a child of God, servant of God. That in the beginning, this ripe eye is just something which we're striving for. It's kind of a role playing that we do. It's aropkora. He says that we try to assume a new type of identity, and gradually we understand that that's our real identity. Yes, it's truer to say I'm a child of the Divine Mother than a child of my biological parents. That there's a deeper meaning to all of that, and we have to act on it. We have to act in a way. See, this unripe eye is acting out of selfishness and out of anger and jealousy and anxiety, all sorts of things. We have to try to eliminate those things. Thakur speaks strongly against any trace of lust and gold, but he also emphasizes faith in self, to not call oneself a sinner. How does one feel good about oneself and maintain faith in self while continuing to struggle with lust and gold?
It is only when we stand upon our own higher self that we will be able to deal with strong instincts like lust and greed. Because as Swamiji said, you can't stand in the mud and then try to wash the mud. You can't be in the dirt and try to clean the dirt. Maybe there's a big hint there.
Thakur says that the path of bhakti is the easiest and happiest path. Why is that? How does one develop pure bhakti for a God who I have not yet seen, or don't have complete faith in? Okay, the first part we've dealt with. The second part is actually a very good question. What Sri Ramakrishna says is personalize it. This infinite absolute reality, very hard to have a loving relationship, so put a face on it. And the advice that he gives that I find most helpful is, you love the avatar, that's the same as loving God. To worship the avatar is the same as loving God. From a practical point of view, meditating and loving, it'll have that same, because this is the perfect manifestation of the divine, as perfect as we can imagine on earth. And Swamiji, he makes another great statement. He said, try to imagine the most compassionate and loving being, all the qualities that we attribute to God, and you'll find that it's very much limited by our own understanding of what compassion is, and kindness and love. What we see manifest in these great souls that we call avatars is greater than the highest imagination we can have of what the ideal personal God would be. Yeah. So this is one way. The other, we want to worship God as Divine Mother, and then we can really bring in a little this personalization of it, and give name and form. We utilize the things that we say belong to Maya. Okay, but there's a Vidya Maya. We can utilize these so that we can feel some loving type of relationship. But if we can develop this love for the avatar, because the personality is so attractive and beautiful, and right before our very own eyes, and we even Thakur Ma, we have their photographs and their words and everything. If we can develop love for them, then to me this is equally as good or the same as what we call love of God, and we can lead our devotional life that way.
And also, it is not that we are completely, absolutely bereft of bhakti. It is all there. just the fact that we are human beings implies that this love of God is implanted in our hearts, only we have smothered it with our love for the world. If we decrease that, bhakti is said to bubble up spontaneously.
One more question about concentration. Yeah, this concentration is not for everybody. This is a very difficult truth sometimes, but if by concentration we mean really deep meditation where the mind is not wandering, it's not for everybody. That there's some people that they're better off with doing some selfless activity. They're better off doing some puja, some japa, listening to some lectures. Not everybody has that type of mind. You close our eyes and we think of one thing and the mind doesn't wander anywhere else. It's very rare. And even after many, many years of practice, it's not that we find that now, yes, we can sit and easily focus the mind and it doesn't wander. We may get better at it. And again, if that force of attraction is there, it may be helpful. But if we're basing our whole spiritual life on the ability to concentrate to the point where the mind will become one-pointed and all vrittis will end and we'll have nirvikalpa samadhi, it's not realistic for everyone. This is why Thakur says that we can achieve the same goal through this intense love of God. So I don't think anybody should feel bad if they find that the mind wanders. This is the nature of the mind. Holy Mother emphasized that also. This is the nature of the mind. It'll have its ups and downs. There's a very rare soul that can control the mind to that extent that it won't wander like that. So doing puja, doing some spiritual reading, doing something that inspires us, doing some selfless service, all of these things will achieve that same goal of purifying the heart and bringing more love and devotion into us as this idea of just trying to concentrate. Okay, last one, what is it? Oh, yes, okay.
Sometimes mind wanders, but at the same time keep on repeating the word. Is it the mind is splitted? Mind is only one, right? So mind is wandering, thinking of so many things at the same time.
Yes, there can be an undercurrent of say we're sitting for meditation, and that we'll feel that we're sitting in the presence of the Ishtadevata, and still the mind is wandering. But so yeah, it's not that it's doing two conflicting things exactly at the same time. It's not that really multitasking, but it can float back between what is the main focus and what is the background, and wander a little bit within that area. Yeah, the mind is complex. It can do all of these things. Okay, this is the last one. It's actually a 4-part question, so we'll try to do it fast. When Thakur threw the coin in the water, mati, taka mati, then why did he do that?
Yeah, many people have wondered why he could have used the money for some better purpose. But Thakur went to the root of the matter. He said, money is the root of all problems. It all begins like that, doing good to the world, but where it will lead. So he wanted to demonstrate that spiritual life was only possible by the complete renunciation of these two things. He wanted to demonstrate that for somebody who wanted God and God alone, money was absolutely inessential.
Okay, 3rd part. Oh, are you finished?
Yeah. Just one,
go ahead. Yeah.
friend of mine said he wanted to prematurely give up his job and concentrate on this thing. And I said, brother, you have to keep something for your future. And he said, Maharaj, I have seen the world. I have helped myself. I have helped my friends also. But I tell you one thing, even if you are a sadhu, I'll tell you one thing. money is the last thing that will help you when you need help. He said it with such force. Money is the last thing money will only complicate matters.
This was, of course, one of the teachings of Jesus. Huh? Money is the root of all evil. Yeah. Okay, now, that question did Swamiji say that two religions in this world are the source of all the other religions, Hindu religion and Judaism? This is just a historical observation, that these were the two earlier ones, and they had offshoots from what we call the old Vedic religion, before really the term Hinduism was used. The Buddhist tradition came, Jain tradition came, other things came, and Judaism has as its offshoots Christianity and Islam. So this is just from a historical perspective. Now, when Holy Mother came to Dakshineshwar, Thakur did puja to her and made her the her Sangi of sadhana. But don't you feel that Mother was born for this only? Yeah, when Thakur worshipped the Holy Mother as the Divine Mother of the universe, he awakened something which was natural to her, which was part of her real nature. So both things are true, that he had to play that role of catalyst, we can say, to awaken that. But she was born for it, of course. Yeah. So I think both things are true. Yes. Okay. Okay.
My question is, just as mother said that karo onnay dekho na, nije onnay dekho.
Neither dosh, tako. Yeah.
So is this teaching is for everybody, always, all kinds of misdoing or else wrongdoing?
No, this is what I was saying, that no, we don't want to be foolish people. We want to know that something wrong is done, but we don't brand that person. We don't label that person as a terrible person or a sinner. There are reasons for it, why people do things. I always have this feeling when I see people, real criminals and everything, that probably if I'd grown up in that environment, or whatever it was that led to that, I'd be equally as bad. So we don't blame people that way.
But then somebody has to take action.
Yeah, of course. That doesn't mean we don't do anything. Yeah, but we can do it out of love. If a child is doing something wrong out of love, the mother will chastise the child and try to teach the child. Yes, yeah. Okay, last question.
It's not a question, actually.
Oh, okay.
I would like to take the liberty on behalf of all of you to thank you both for this wonderful condensation of the key messages of the Holy Trinity in front of us. I think it really, in many ways, I can speak for myself for sure, it really transcended a lot of limiting, distracting thoughts that many of us would have in the self-development and spiritual development, particularly given that we are constantly steeped in very many quote-unquote teachings, very many texts, very many deities, very many thoughts, very many lectures around, so-called many holy people, so many resources. We may constantly get distracted in so many ways, but these messages that came out in the three pieces that you gave, of course, in answers, I think they were really very valuable. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. If anybody would like to get a cup of tea or coffee, some snacks, they should be set up in the basement, and then we'll have our Arati at 6:30, and meditation 7:30 Ramnam. So if you can stay, please stay, and then join us for dinner afterwards.